My name is Ben and I'm an incoming STEM scholar at Wake Forest University. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how I got that scholarship as well as how I got accepted into Cornell, Rice, UC Berkeley, among other top schools. And make sure to watch until the end for my biggest piece of advice that anyone can use to make their Common App significantly more powerful and captivating. And last thing before I get started, I would like to thank Atlas Education, a consulting platform run by Ivy League admissions officers and alumni from schools like Stanford and Harvard,
for sponsoring this video.
Atlas doesn't just help you edit and fix your essays, but actually creates an entire admissions strategy centered around your strengths. Atlas is also flexible for your needs. They offer comprehensive packages if you want the entire full ride-along, or if you just want a few hourly sessions, they have that too. Using Atlas will help you maximize both your odds of getting into a top university as well as your scholarship money. If you're interested, click on the link in the description and you can book your free consultation now. Again, huge thank you to Atlas Education for sponsoring this segment. Now, back to the video. So for stats, I went to a public high school in Massachusetts and I was not a recruited athlete or a legacy admit. And if you guys want to stick around to the end, I will be showing my entire decisions outcome list, or if you guys want a more exciting version of that, feel free to check out my entire college decisions reactions video, which I put the link for in the description as well as right up here. I submitted a 4.36 weighted GPA out of 4.8, and my school didn't do unweighted GPAs, but I did self-calculate it to be around a 3.8 to 3.85. I submitted a 1580 SAT with a 780 reading writing score and an 800 math score, and I also submitted 7 AP scores where I got 4 5s and 3 4s. And I also took 4 AP classes my senior year. So before I get started on my ECs and awards, I want to let you guys know that for my UC application, I actually did not end up using all of these activities and awards just because I genuinely ran out of time to, because I started the application a little bit too late and it was like 30 minutes before it was due and I just didn't have enough time to put all of my activities and awards. So for each extracurricular and award I'm about to list, I will also note whether or not I included it on my UC application. So in order of 1 to 10 on my Common App extracurriculars list, my first EC was all my film and video work, which I did for all 4 years of high school, managing dozens of social media accounts in addition to working with my school, companies, and individual organizations, which also won me a few awards, and I put those awards in my additional info section because I only have room for 5 awards. I was one of the 6 elected members in my grade for student council for all 4 years of high school, and I was also elected vice president my senior year. I was a media intern for 2 years at an organization called Creative Learning Haven, which worked with the MIT D-Lab to support South Sudanese refugees. I did finance club for all 4 years of high school, where I was the publicist during my freshman and sophomore year, an officer during my junior year, and the vice president during my senior year. I also did Mall UN for all 4 years, where I was the club cinematographer for both my junior and senior years, as well as being the undersecretary general my senior year. I was inducted into my school's Triad Music Honor Society chapter my junior year, and I was elected secretary my senior year. I also played for my school's boys volleyball team for all 4 years, where I spent 2 seasons on JV and 2 seasons on varsity. I participated in my school's chamber singers and octets choirs, both of which are audition choirs. That was during my junior and senior years, and I was named section leader in chamber singers for both of those years as well. I was also the first ever junior member of octets, which is typically a senior-only group. I ran a singing TikTok page the summer before senior year where I got hundreds of thousands of views and a few thousand followers. And last but not least, I was a lifeguard and swim instructor from 10th to 12th grade. And for my awards, in junior year, I won first place in a video contest at an International Model United Nations conference. I was a semi-finalist at an international film festival during my junior year. I participated in my state's senior district's festival choir, which is an audition choir from 10th to 12th grade, as well as my state's all-state festival choir in 11th grade. I won a national level short video competition where I also won a $500 scholarship for that. I was also 1 out of 10 finalists in another national video competition, and I ended up winning 3rd place in that contest, which resulted in another $500 scholarship for me, as well as a $500 grant from my high school. So my Common App essay was on singing and how I wasn't really comfortable with singing or my voice at all for that matter, especially as an Asian who is typically supposed to learn a more traditional instrument like piano or the violin. I talked about the pressures I faced while singing, as well as how my family didn't really support me at first, and how I found my voice through my experience at senior districts. The climax of the essay was me having my first performance with the octets, and at the end of the essay, I reflected on my entire musical journey, as well as how I was named section leader later on. And I also made use of a lot of imagery and descriptive details in my writing. For my supplementals, obviously there are a lot, but I'll go over my main supplementals from Cornell, Rice, my UC application, and Wake Forest. But I'm going to leave out all my other supplementals just because most colleges, they have similar prompts, so what I'm going to share here will make up a majority of what I wrote for my other applications as well. So I just don't want a lot of overlap there. For Cornell, I had to write 2 supplementals. One was the 350-word community essay, and another one was the 650-word Why Us essay for the College of Arts and Sciences. My community essay was centered around my work as a media intern for Creative Learning Haven, and I utilized anaphoras, which is basically repetition, to emphasize how my shared time with South Sudanese refugees taught me to create spaces where people feel comfortable to share their own stories. My Why Us essay began with a personal anecdote from my childhood filled with imagery and description about how my imagination was the reason why I did film. I then transitioned to a very dense essay where I tried to relate as many Cornell-specific things as possible to my interests, like programs, courses, departments, professors, clubs, organizations, as well as some more fun things like snowball fights and the Cornell Dairy Bar. For Rice, I had to write a 150-word Why Major essay, a 150-word Why Us essay, and a 500-word community essay. My Why Major essay was basically just the anecdote from the Cornell Why Us essay, but instead of transitioning to how I could continue my passions at Cornell, I just ended the essay right there with a brief reflection after I found my passion for film. My Why Us essay was basically the rest of that Cornell essay, where I just began by referencing Rice's mission statement and then just launched into a bunch of Rice-specific things that were relevant to me and my major. My community essay was basically just copy and pasted from my Cornell community essay with a bit more description and a longer reflection at the end for the longer word count. For my Rice box, I submitted a photo of me taking a video of the ocean with my film camera. For the UC personal insight questions, I chose to write a 350-word essay about leadership experience, a 350-word essay about my creative side, a 350-word essay about significant challenges, and a 350-word essay on making my school and community a better place. And also keep in mind that I wrote 2 of these essays in less than 3 hours because I was so crunched for time when I was doing my UC application. So they're not very polished, but I guess the AOs at Berkeley just like my raw, unfiltered writing. So my leadership experience essay was on Creative Learning Haven. I just had to rework the beginning and the end a little bit just to fit the prompt better, as well as just to fit the whole overall UC PIQ serious style better. So in my opinion, I actually did not like my creative side essay a lot, and I just thought it was just not really put together well because I literally just thought about the steps I took to edit a video, like the apps that I use, like color grading, and also how I uploaded it to Instagram. But I will say I did like my ending of it, which goes, I love editing videos because they allow me to visualize my mind's thoughts. I express my creative side through them by making my vivid dreams and imaginations a reality. My significant challenge essay was a condensed version of my Common App with less description and imagery, again just to fit the shorter word count, also the serious nature again of the UC PIQs. And for my school and community essay, I mainly focused in on my work for student council, and I talked about the direct actions that I took on the council to make my school a better place. I then used what I did relating to film on the council to sort of transition into my broader community, which I did more film work for, where I talked about my work with alumni associations and small businesses around town. For Wake Forest, I had to write a top 10 list with a theme of my choosing, a top 5 books list where I had to note if any books were required reading, a 150-word intellectual curiosity essay, and a 150-word Why Us essay, as well as the 300-word Dr. Maya Angelou essay, which I'll explain when I get to it. The theme for my top 10 list was places to nap, and it went against the school bus window, on the airplane tray table, across the row of a car, on the headrests of a coach bus, on the red chairs in the library, in the shade on a hot day, on the front passenger seat, on the family sofa, in my bed, and in the beanbag chair in my room. The beanbag chair in my room is actually the place where I woke up from my nap before I decided to use this idea to write the essay. My top 5 books were A Long Way Gone, The Odyssey, The Old Man and the Sea, Naked Economics, and The Aeneid. My intellectual curiosity essay was about skiing, and I began that with a short anecdote on my annual ski trip to Loon Mountain in New Hampshire, and then I transitioned into how I approached and adapted to new challenges on the slopes through connection and openness. I applied EA to Wake Forest, so my Why Us essay was a little bit different than my other Why Us essays. That's just because I didn't have enough time to edit it, because obviously when you apply early you have to submit the application earlier. But a quick note that if you do want to be considered for scholarship at Wake Forest, or for basically any school in general, you do probably need to apply early. So just keep that in mind as you're applying. But with that aside, I wrote how, as an aspiring filmmaker, pairing critical and creative media with economics would allow me to study the craft not only as a cultural shift, but also through the lens of an emerging social media market. And that was the real first sentence of my YS essay. I then did the usual YS stuff of just referencing Wake Forest specific things before ending the essay with a callback to my first thesis statement. My Dr. Maya Angelou essay was just prompting me to find a quote from the former Wake Forest professor and how it reflects on my plan to contribute to the Wake Forest community. So it's basically just a community essay. My chosen quote was, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And again, I wrote about my experience at Creative Learning Haven, but since I applied early, this essay was more of like, it focused on one specific experience I had with a refugee instead of my overall experience, and I also didn't use anaphoras, but the overall message stayed the same. So that's it for the essay section of the video. I know that I might not have gone to every single common essay topic that you might find in a college application, but then again, I didn't really get into the schools that asked those questions, so maybe I just wrote bad essays. But basically what I just did for those other essays is I just used the same literary techniques, so I just swapped them out with different anecdotes. And I will be going over my techniques later in the video as well. But if you guys do want me to do a deep dive into all of my essays, be sure to let me know in the comments section, as well as leaving a like on the video so I know that you guys want more of this type of stuff. And also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future college advice from me. Okay, next section. I applied to 23 schools, including 5 Ivies, 3 UCs, and 10 top 20s. I applied ED to Brown and EA to Northeastern, IU Bloomington, and UMass Amherst in-state. And then here are all my decisions. For Northeastern, I was accepted into their NU IN program and awarded a $5,000 a year merit scholarship. For IU Bloomington, I was accepted into the Hutton's Honors College and awarded an $8,000 a year merit scholarship, but I ended up being waitlisted from the IU Kelly Direct Admit program. For UIUC, I was accepted into the Campus Honors Program, James Honors Program, and I was also awarded a $1,000 a year merit scholarship for that. And obviously for Wake Forest, I was awarded a full ride merit scholarship, and for BU, I was admitted into their semester abroad program with Verdo Education. So I think the reason why my otherwise bland application held up really well at top colleges was just because that I had 2 really strong central storylines, which were music and film, and those repeatedly came up in my ECs, essays, and awards. And then on top of those 2 strong areas, I also had an incredibly well-rounded application, so that meant like I had strong test scores, I had a decent GPA, I had good leadership positions, I also had team sport and work experience as well. I also think what helped a lot is that film and music, especially like singing and choir, are not really that common among applicants, especially Asians, who typically lean more towards like STEM-oriented fields. But that's just luck of the draw. I wasn't really strategically choosing my hobbies or passion when I was like 10 years old. One thing I would avoid doing if I had to redo this entire college application process again is procrastinating. Because going into my senior year and even into my junior year a little bit when I was studying for the SAT, I kind of just like sit around and do nothing while like deadlines loomed over me. I didn't study at all for my first SAT, which I got a 1480 on, and then I didn't really start studying that much for my second SAT retake until like 2 weeks before during February break. And I ended up just like not leaving my house at all while I crammed like 2 practice tests every single day. I also didn't start any work at all on my college apps until like very late August and didn't start making actual progress on my essays until like maybe in October. And this resulted in probably the most stressful time in my life, especially near those ED and RD deadlines where I would just sleep and eat right next to my laptop and I would just be constantly grinding essays every single day. Also during that time, I felt like a genuine like physical toll on my body where I could just feel my heart deteriorating, which is actually why I ended up not applying to every single Ivy. So definitely do not procrastinate and definitely do stay motivated. I know it can be hard, especially when you're trying to balance your schoolwork and your social life as well as your college applications, but it will definitely pay off in the long run. And also, when you look back at it, it really won't be as bad as it seemed. Something that might be a little bit controversial but personally helped me a lot was competition. When I was a lazy bum in 10th grade, I noticed that all my friends, they were just doing all these cool internships that sounded really impressive, even if they maybe were not actually. And I was afraid that I was falling behind, so I started working harder in my classes, I started working harder in clubs, I started networking to get an internship. And like before, when people would just ask me, oh Ben, do you want to make this video? Oh Ben, do you want to come film this event? And now I was kind of like sort of putting myself out there and putting my work out there. I would reach out to small business owners. I'd be like, hey, do you want me to come in for a shoot and stuff like that. And I also started like filming short films to build my portfolio as well as to submit to actual film festivals. And then soon enough, I had a bunch of clients and I even had the incredible opportunity to become my school's main videographer, which is sick. And last year, I was able to film the class of 2025's graduation for my school, which is really cool. So my biggest piece of advice is for what I believe is the most important part of everyone's application, and that is the essays. Not only as a filmmaker, but also as a high school graduate and also as a recent college applicant, I truly believe that a good story is what captivates and moves the audience, which in your case is the admissions officers. And a good story isn't one that needs to be filled with star-studded achievements and like 4.0 GPAs and international awards or anything like that. In my opinion, the easiest way to achieve this is just to stick to what's tried and true, and that is the hero's journey. So after setting the scene to the story, give your character a call to adventure. I began my Common App story as a troubled teen who liked singing but was shunned from it by his family, and then when I entered high school, my music teacher encouraged me to audition for senior districts. The mentor can be anyone or anything. It can be a book, an event, or even yourself. For me, I chose my music teacher. And this is also where the rising action in the story begins. When I stepped into the festival's first rehearsal, I crossed the threshold into the unknown, where throughout the rehearsal, I found myself inspired by my peers. By the end of the festival, I had confidence and control of my voice, and my teacher gave me the gift of joining octets. Returning back to my high school environment, I had my first performance with the group, singing out proudly. This is the climax of the story. And that concert was also the first one my family supported me at, which neatly wrapped up the family subplot that was introduced at the start of the story. And finally, in the following action section, I brought the reader to the present where I was leading a sight reading exercise as the section leader. Obviously, you don't need to follow the hero's journey exactly, like no one's dying or being resurrected in my story either. But finding an experience in your life that closely resembles this layout will make writing your essay and stringing it together so much more easy. Also, and this goes for all of your essays, not just your Common App, but just use literary techniques wherever possible. Just hammer your point into the admissions officer reading your file. So I used imagery, anaphoras, mementos, repetition, and then a lot of anecdotes throughout my essays. But keep in mind to not force the literary devices into your writing, because a poorly placed device can just completely take your reader out of the moment. Okay, if you made it this far in the video, give yourself a pat on the back because you deserve it, honestly. College applications are stressful, and I know that because I was just in your shoes less than a year ago. If anything, I hope that this video has shown you that an average guy who works hard and believes in his passions can truly succeed in what might seem like an increasingly achievement-based and cutthroat environment. If you told my younger self at the beginning of my high school journey that I would get into an Ivy League, multiple top 20s, and even a full ride to college, all while maintaining an incredibly healthy work-life balance and even having fun while doing it, I would have genuinely laughed at you. If you guys have any more questions, like how I wrote my YS essay or any of my other essays, or how I got 1580 on my SAT, I'm happy to answer them in another video. Feel free to leave a comment down below or shoot me a DM on Instagram, which is linked in the description. And remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when the next video drops. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Good luck on your applications, and I'll see you guys in the next one.